I don't know if you guys have heard, but Joe Biden apparently has announced that he is trying to pass a new student debt cancellation resolution. Now, of course, it is election year. So you know what this is really all about, because I want to tell you, if he wanted to do this, he could have done this from the very beginning when he released the first student debt resolution, right? So he could have done it back then. So just keep that in mind, guys. It is election year. Also, I believe Joe Biden is doing this because, remember, those polls are showing you he has lost support among younger voters. So I believe he's trying to implement more student debt cancellation to win over that youth vote that he has been losing since the war in Gaza. But I don't know if this is going to work. Let's first get into this statement from Nancy Pelosi. I just want to take you back to a oldie but goodie from 2022 of Nancy Pelosi telling you that the president actually cannot do this. Do you guys remember this? Remember that?
People think that the president of the United States, is this more on the subject than you ever want to know? Will you let me know? People think that the president of the United States has the power for debt forgiveness. He does not. He can postpone, he can delay, but he does not have that power. That has to be an act of Congress. People think that the president of the United States, is this more on the subject than you ever want to know? Will you let me know? People think that the president of the United States has the power for debt forgiveness. He does not. He can postpone, he can delay, but he does not have that power. That has to be an act of Congress. People think that the president...
That didn't age well, right? Okay, because here's the thing. In the very beginning, when this was announced, I told you that he could cancel all student loan debt by executive order, and he can do it through the Higher Education Act of 1965. I made that very clear to people during that time. Joe Biden deciding to try to do this through the HEROES Act was just a terrible idea. And then also one of the complaints that I had in reference to canceling student loan debt was that he decided to means test it, which I feel made things more complicated. People had difficulty getting through some of the different types of paperwork, the forms, etc. Puts more work on people that had to process those forms when he could have just did a blanket cancellation of all of it. And here we are again. Inflation is starting to increase again. I don't know if everyone's heard about that. So now he's trying to present another form of student debt cancellation, which is also means tested. Let's go ahead and get into this speech from President Biden trying to win over younger voters. Here comes Joe.
From day one, my administration has been committed to fixing the broken student loan system and making sure higher education is a ticket to the middle class, not a barrier. My administration has approved debt cancellation for 4 million Americans through various actions. And today, I'm announcing new plans that would cancel student debt for millions more. In total, these plans would cancel some or all student debt for 30 million Americans when combined with everything we've done so far. To find out how these plans may impact you, visit studentaid.gov.
Okay, and that's exactly what we're going to do. We're going to visit it because I want you to see what this plan actually looks like. So let's go ahead and bring this up on the screen here. This is from Federal Student Aid, studentaid.gov, federal student loan debt relief, because I want you guys to understand what they're trying to change here. All right. So again, they decided to means test this, which I told you before, I think this is a mistake. President Biden announced new plans to cancel student debt under the Higher Education Act. If implemented as proposed, these plans would authorize waivers to, so here's the means test, cancel up to $20,000 in interest for all borrowers who have accrued or capitalized interest on their loans since entering repayment. Okay. Cancel up to So I have trouble with the wording, because what does that really mean? Because some people are going to see this and they're going to think, oh, I'm going to get $20,000 of my student loan interest canceled. No, 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 no. It says up to. So what is the deciding factor in reference to how much of that interest is going to be canceled for you? For you, it could be 5,000. For someone else, it could be 10,000. For another person, it could be 20,000. This is why I don't like to means test canceling some type of debt. So hold on to that piece where it says up to. Now we'll go to the next one. Automatically cancel debt for borrowers who would otherwise be eligible for loan forgiveness under income-driven repayment plans like the SAVE plan or the public service loan forgiveness, but are not enrolled in those programs. So pay attention to this piece where it says not enrolled in those programs, because again, some people are just going to read that first part and they're like, oh, I qualified for the public service loan forgiveness. I've been a part of that for a couple years. In fact, one of my friends is a part of that, right? But this doesn't apply to them because they're already a part of that program. They already entered that program. This is for people who would qualify for it, but they're not enrolled in those programs. Someone explain that to me, right? Look at this part again. Automatically cancel debt for borrowers. How much debt? All of it? Are they talking about canceling all of it for people who are eligible for the SAVE plan and for the public service loan forgiveness plan? We need to ask these questions, guys. Okay, I'm not trying to be a Debbie Downer. I'm not trying to be a thorn in your side. I'm just trying to ask the questions that I think were not asked by some people last time. So we got to dig a little bit deeper. Here's the next one. Cancel student debt for borrowers with undergraduate loans who entered repayment at least 20 years ago, and debt for graduate school borrowers who entered repayment at least 25 years ago. So let's pay attention to the timeline. 20 years for undergrad, 25 years for grad. So why those years? Why 20 years and why 25 years? Because think about it just for a second. If you are a younger millennial, that's not you, because you haven't been out of college for 20 years or 25 years. Who's been out of college for 20 years or 25 years? Let's do some math. Maybe older millennial, Gen X, boomer. We got to ask these questions. I'm sorry. It's just, I saw people getting excited about this and I'm like, let me read this carefully. Okay. Why those years? Why not just do that for everybody? And then also this part right here, cancel student debt. Again, how much debt? All of it? So guys, we got to ask these questions. Is Joe Biden saying he's going to cancel all of the student debt for those people? And also, if you have entered repayment 20 years ago or 25 years ago, most of your student loan debt is probably almost paid off. So how much are they really canceling? Come on, guys. Come on. Let's go to the next one here. Fired Play says this reads like a credit card application. Yeah, look, man. The next one here, cancel student debt for borrowers who previously enrolled in low financial value programs. According to who? So you see, they are deciding what those low financial value programs are. You might think or consider that your program was, but they're making the decision. We'll get into that in just a second when we scroll down. And then this part here, this is the last one. Cancel student debt for borrowers experiencing hardship in their lives that prevent them from fully paying back their loans now or in the future. Define hardship. Because you can actually apply for a deferment if you're going through, economic hardship, or if you had some people have a medical hardship, so they're not able to work. So they got to, apply for some type of deferment during that time. But again, most of us, I think, have going through some type of hardship, financial hardship. That's a lot of people, considering inflation, considering people lost their businesses, small businesses during the pandemic. That's a lot of people going through a hardship. So let's dig a little bit deeper. This is why I want us to be very careful. Okay. Would I qualify? So let's look at the first one. Cancel up to $20,000 in interest. All borrowers would be eligible for this debt cancellation. Low and middle income borrowers enrolled in the SAVE plan or other income-driven repayment plans would be eligible for their entire interest balance since entering repayment to be canceled if they make $120,000 or less. This is why you have to read the fine print. Now, you can make $120,000, but if you live in New York City or you live in San Francisco, you're not really making what you think. That's why I don't like means testing it. Goes on to say here, or less per year individually as an individual, or if you're married and you're filing separately, $180,000 or less per year as a head of household, or $240,000 or less per year as married borrowers who file joint taxes. Again, who came up with these numbers, right? Let's go to the next one, where it says automatically cancel debt for borrowers who would otherwise be eligible for the income-driven repayment and the SAVE plan and the public service loan forgiveness. The U.S. Department of Education would use data it has available to identify borrowers enrolled in SAVE who have been in repayment for at least 10 years or more and took out small balance loans. So you see why you got small balance of loans. This is tricky and confusing because it says borrowers who would be eligible but are not enrolled. But then it also says here, borrowers enrolled in SAVE who have been in repayment for at least 10 years or more and took out small balance of loans. So you see, guys, this is why I didn't think they were trying to cancel all of it. It looks like they're looking for a certain segment of the population that doesn't have as much debt left. Cancel student debt for borrowers who entered repayment a long time ago. And that goes to the 20 years for undergrad and 25 years for grad school for those who entered repayment then. Again, that's a certain segment of the population. That's obviously not Gen Z. That may be some older millennials, but that's definitely not Gen Z. Cancel student debt for borrowers previously enrolled in low financial value. Let's dive into this. Borrowers who took out loans associated with institutions or programs that lost their eligibility to participate in the federal student aid program or were denied recertification would be eligible for relief. That's not as many people as you think. Because there are other institutions that I would consider to be a low financial value institution, but they don't fall under that category. This is why you have to read the details. It goes on to say borrowers who attended institutions or programs that closed and failed to provide sufficient financial value would also be eligible for relief. So let's think about people that have attended schools like the University of Phoenix, which is a ripoff, by the way. That provides, I would say that is a low financial value school with low financial value programs. They overcharge. They get these students into a lot of debt. They started out going after, single moms, right? Single parents that don't have time to necessarily commute back and forth to school. So that way they can do it online. or in the evening, if that works out. But that wouldn't fall under this requirement because they didn't close. So you see how they defined what is low financial value? Financial value will be measured upon indicators like excessive student loan default rates or unaffordable debt burdens relative to income. This one is going to be tricky. That one's good. And that's a lot of paperwork. And by the way, this does not go into effect this year. This goes into effect in 2025. So you see how they do a gotcha? In order for this to pass, you have to vote for Joe Biden. First, it's got to pass in Congress. But if it passed in the House, then it goes to the Senate. I don't know if this will pass in the Senate, just being honest. Probably not. But if it did pass in the Senate, then Joe Biden says that he would approve it. But the only way that you actually get this is if you vote for Joe Biden in November, because this doesn't start until 2025. Yes, XJW. Bennett College scammed me and lost their accreditation the next month. Yeah. So a lot of people, I'm familiar with Bennett. So do you see the game? You see what he's trying to do? And then the last one here, cancel student debt for borrowers experiencing hardship in their lives that prevent them from paying their loans now or in the future. A little bit of detail. Borrowers predicted to fall into default on their student loans would be eligible for automatic relief under the Biden administrative proposal. Borrowers experiencing other cost burdens could also receive relief through an application process. What other cost burdens? Notice they don't go into detail. You're going to have to fill out the application to see if you qualify for whatever these other cost burdens may be. Then you got to wait for them to respond. The other thing, borrowers that are about to fall into default would be eligible for automatic relief. What does that mean? For all of it? Or for a certain portion? I saw people getting hyped up and excited about this on social media, and it was very obvious to me they didn't read the fine lines. They didn't go into the details because I'm like, no, this does not apply to everybody. Now, what could have been an easier way to do this? Just canceling all of it for everybody. No means testing. That would have been much easier. But no, you got it. All these different tests. I'm like, are you applying to get a portion of your student debt canceled? Or are you applying to take out a loan on a house? Are you applying for a mortgage? Are you applying for to get part of your student debt canceled? Yeah. Jacqueline says, always read the fine print. Always. This is why it's important to read that. Now, I want to show you just proof as to why I think he's doing this, because he is losing young voter support. So this article here from Politico says the polls are suggesting a huge shift in the electorate. Are they right? Check this out. Something weird is happening beneath the overall stability of the early 2024 polling, and it's either a sign of massive electoral realignment or that the polls are wrong again. Polls show former President Donald Trump is ascendant with the youngest block of the electorate, even leading Joe Biden in some surveys as less engaged young voters spurn Biden. Biden is stronger with seniors than he was 4 years ago, even as his personal image is significantly diminished since he was elected last time. Let's look at the numbers. Make sure I didn't skip over. Yeah. Where did I go? I'm sorry, guys. Generational shift. That would be a generational shift. For decades, Democratic presidential candidates have overwhelmingly won young voters, and Republicans have done the same with the other end of the electorate. Poll after poll is showing that's flipped this year. Let's dive in here. It goes on to say, or maybe something's wrong in the polls, and the mirage of an age inversion is really a warning sign of a structural problem in the 2024 polling. Okay. Here's what the polls show. Last week, A new NPR PBS NewsHour Marist College national poll showed Trump 2 points ahead of Biden among millennial and Gen Z voters, while Biden led overall among voters 45 years and older. So Biden is capturing 45 years and over. He's capturing that base. But Trump is now leading him among millennials and Gen Z. It goes a little bit further here. A Fox News poll last month showed Trump leading Biden among voters under 30 by a whopping 18 points in a head-to-head matchup, and by 21 points with independent and third-party candidates included. Did you hear that part? When you include the independent and third-party candidates, he's actually beating Biden by 21 points with voters under 30 years old. So part of this has to do with Joe Biden's decision to continue to support and fund the state of Israel during this war in Gaza. The younger voters are not doing this. They do not want to support Joe Biden because they know that without his support, without the funding from the US government, Israel wouldn't have all these arms and these weapons to continue their assault on the Palestinian people. So what does the Biden administration do? Do they stop giving arms to Israel? No. They decide, let's try to cancel more student loan debt to get those voters back. Do you guys think that this is going to work? Do you think younger voters are going to fall for this? Or do you think they're going to realize that they're being played? I sincerely hope they don't fall for this. I really do. Because what I would say to you again is that at the end of the day, if he wanted to do this, he could have done this the first time when he decided to implement student debt cancellation. He waited and he's doing it now because this is the election year. This is the game that they play. Welcome to America. Let's go to some of the comments here in the chat. Colin says, another bait and switch. There you go. Thank you for the super chat, Edward. This bill sounds like it wouldn't help anyone and it wouldn't pass anyway, just like the do nothing Democrats intended. I'm still voting third party. I hear you, Edward. Ashura says Biden doesn't excite anyone and no one wants it. Troy says, I don't know anyone who is voting for Biden. I don't either, actually, now I think about that. Thank you for the super chat, Troy. Biden dangling the carrots. Thank you, John. The Democrats are always too little too late. Yeah, I told you again, they are reactive, not proactive. Papa says, Sabby Sabs, you are teaching people not to be played by our corrupt politicians. So thank you. Thank you so much. I just want to wake people up to some things because he's making generalizations and it's important we see the details. Thank you for the super chat, Colin. Imani Oakley once said that a bill is good when it is able to answer all of your questions. 100% well said there, Colin. Yeah, buddy. This is Joe Biden's way of trying to win back the younger voters. So here we are.